friends, my YouTube subscribers. It is my opinion that the rideshare corporate decision making of today is simply not working, right? And there have to be some radical changes. Now that the IPO is literally on the horizon and they announce that they've once again made a $1.8 billion loss, right? I ask myself, how are they making decisions on the top? And allow me to read this to you, right? The process of corporate decision making, it means that corporate decision making happens at various levels, right, in organizations and can be top down or bottom up. Corporate decision making is also characterized by consensus or the lack of it. As you can see, I have highlighted or the lack of it. So today, I'd want to switch things around. Seeing that they look at us, the drivers, at the bottom as the bottom feeders, why don't we introduce a model where decision making now starts from bottom and goes upwards, right? From us drivers up to the corporates, right? A whole new way of making decisions at Uber and Lyft. We make the decisions for them. Now, you may laugh and think, oh gosh, never, right? I'm just saying that the lack of their decisions on the top are causing this $1.8 billion loss, right, annually. And if we were involved, if our voice was involved, if we could be part of that decision-making process, I think we could get far better results. And here are many reasons why. Firstly, in America, corporate greed, right, is one of the biggest viruses of the industry, right? The entitlement, the egos that CEOs and other board members have, where they think that their value is so supersonic high, has to stop, right? What Dara Kay or these other guys, Logan Green, whatever their names are, think that their value is, or what shareholders are willing to pay them, is super high. I would say right now that if we were to cut salaries, right, across the board, board members and executives, and right there, free up probably $300 million per year, easily, right, easily. Each and every one of those salaries, you look at them, they're way too inflated, and we start right there and free up $300 to $400 million in salaries very, very easily. And they will still keep their positions because they are still making too much money at that point when you cut that, right? Then the willy-nilly decision-making from the top, right? Top down, that these guys conduct, right? It absolutely makes no sense to me. And I've been pondering this. I've been discussing this with CEOs, clients of mine in my car, listening to highly, highly intelligent people that maybe get a fraction of what these guys get. But to me, they seem far smarter. And I always say to my passengers, not going to mention names, but hey, how do you think these guys could start turning profits, right? And we would have great conversations because it's 1 hour all the way to LAX, and I get all this feedback. So I would start by changing the culture, right, of corporate greed in America and make those salaries, those earnings way more realistic so that we immediately free up about $400 million. Then their base, the people that they cozy up to, and I'm talking now bottom-up decisions from us, drivers to the corporates, hey, you're cutting in the wrong places, right? You're cutting back on your workforce, right? You are obviously making your workforce very unhappy, your drivers. Look, strike after strike. That's got to tell you something, right, on corporate level that, hey, something is not right here. we got to look at some alternatives. I'm going to give you a good alternative. Don't be shy. Don't be shy as a corporate executive of this company to raise the rates for passengers, not in one gigantic step, but in 2 steps, right? Do it like the gas industry does it, right? Raise it, let's say, by 10%, and 3 to 6 months later by another 5%. But bring in an annual increase of about 15% for passengers. I myself, I have asked a lot of passengers, and I've told those passengers during the trip, I said, have you followed the strikes and that? Yeah, I've seen that. So basically, drivers are unhappy. Would you be okay paying 10, 15% more for this trip right now that you're getting? And I tell you, 8 to 9 times out of 10%, 8 to 9 times out of 10, they would say, yeah, I would be willing to pay more or tip more. And by me bringing up the topic, I actually got tipped more because they felt bad for us. They felt bad for the drivers. So corporate Uber, corporate Lyft should never be shy to raise, and I'm talking in 2 steps here, 10% raise on the rates for passengers, and then another 5%, maybe 3 months to 6 months later, right? So that money starts flowing in, okay? Big time. So now we've just explored a model where we could easily free up $300 to $400 million in salaries just based on pure ego and pure corporate greed, right? That fat needs to be trimmed, right? And it'll still run efficiently, and it'll still, these people will not drop their, because they're making, instead of 40 million, they're making 30 million, or instead of, 100 million, they're making 70 million, right? They're not going to balk. They're going to keep that position because they're in for the end game, which is the IPO, right? So raising rates on the passengers, trimming back the fat on the corporates are 2 big steps. Number 3, if I look at their call center, customer support of a company is a huge, huge part, right? Because when you already know on the top, in the corporate level, that there's huge unhappiness, US and internationally, amongst drivers with your call center, you got to go back and reevaluate, right? I say implement a system. We have so much AI, artificial intelligence these days, right? That when when your call is taken, it goes through systematic questions. So by the time the actual person comes on the line, they know exactly what you're talking about, right? It is a shot in the dark to have 2 or 3 options on a 1-800 number, and you're getting a guy who has no idea what's coming his way, no idea, right? And then has to adjust, has to look up on his computer screen, what do I read back to the guy? No, it's got to be all automated based on AI. You could cut the call center back by 30, 40, 50% of their workforce in the Philippines, right? And replace it with technology. You're now freeing up all those salaries, right? And the same thing goes, point number 4, the same thing goes for all the hubs, right, around the world, right? They don't need this massive, massive hub in Redondo Beach. It could be half the size, right? They're paying insane square footage prices, right? I'm just using that as an example. It could be half the size. A couple of more computer screens where people could walk in and maybe get things done right there and then, interacting AI with the computer. And then if need be, if you need to go a level further, you speak to a live representative. But to have 5, 10, 15 people sometimes sitting around not doing anything on quiet days and paying for all of that extra square footage, it just tells me that the people on top are not thinking this through, right? So their rentals for hubs, their staffing of hubs could be way more efficient. They could free up an insane amount of monies right there, right? And we're just exploring alternatives. And in this channel right now, my friends, whether it's Savannah, Ed, Traveling Guy, Clayton Green, your input. Tell the corporates bottom up, right? We're making some good decisions for you. Here are our suggestions. Listen to them, right? Chicago Rob, put your ideas forward. Rick Reviews, put your ideas forward. So that bottom up, they start listening to our decision making, participation of turning this company around. Because right now, the corporate decision making, right, is also characterized by consensus or the lack of it. I'm using specifically the lack of it on the top, right? Now, the interpersonal issues that you create between corporate and drivers, between your workforce, by mistreatment, by not listening to them, by experimenting with them, by cutting randomly 25% overnight, by treating them like guinea pigs and lab mice. Do you think that creates harmony in a company? Like people that enjoy going to work for Google or enjoy going to work for Apple? Drivers get in the car because they have to make the money. If I had to interview 20 drivers, I will guarantee you 19 of them would not be happy with their corporates, right? With the people making their decisions top to bottom, right there, right? So the interpersonal issues, look at them, right? Set up a task force in Uber and Lyft and review those interpersonal issues, those interpersonal relationships between your workforce, right, and your corporates, and see there's a huge disconnect, and you need to start building a bridge, right? Now, some of these decisions that they make, have super high risk consequences. And when I say super high risk consequences, is they'll make a willy-nilly decision and a lot of drivers simply walk out, right? Where do they go? They go to Lyft, which then leads me to the next issue. To retain a driver, to keep a driver, the money that they need to hemorrhage and bleed and throw to retain a driver is because they are making these willy-nilly high-risk consequence decisions, right? That affect drivers' earnings, and they walk, right? So they cannot be surprised on corporate level if they have to spend all of that insane money to try and get drivers back with referrals. And with referrals, another one, number 7, you got to keep it consistent. You can't say, hey, for this city, we're going to offer $10 for 100 trips. And in this city, we're going to offer $400 for 70. There is no consistency in there, right? Recruiting companies know this, right? You pay for your staff and you try and keep your staff happy, right? So there has to be an adjustment. And seeing that Uber and Lyft hardly spend any money on marketing, right? Any money on, they spend very, very little on marketing fees, recruiting new drivers. Their marketing fee is based on drivers bringing drivers. So if they know that that works very effectively, that there are thousands and thousands of drivers out there using their codes, inviting their friends, inviting their families, right? That is their marketing tool, right? And if that is their marketing tool, which works for them, I know that for a fact, then look after those people, right? Don't insult them with $10 here and there, right? Okay, so that was, those are just a few suggestions. I'm going to go over more. I don't think that Uber and Lyft, like some other organizations, have built enough relationships with other companies, right? Because when you, let's say, a senior, right? Thank God I'm not there yet, but there are organizations in place that represent seniors. And if a senior goes shopping somewhere or whatever, these companies start collecting points. They'll redeem incentives, etc. I don't think that Uber and Lyft have even started exploring all the ways, all the alliances that they could do with hotel groups, with gas companies, with restaurant chains, with corporations where A, there are privileges, discounts extended to the driver, and B, if a driver, and they have millions of them worldwide, goes and shops or pays or flies in that plane, there's a point system, and Uber and Lyft also get rewarded. So money starts flowing back. Why? Because we are introducing your services, these partnerships that we've created, to our drivers, right? Hate to use the example here, but the NRA, I'm not a fan of them, but the NRA does that pretty effectively with their base, right? They extend a lot of privileges to their NRA members, and their NRA members cash in, whether it's hotels. So, and they have millions and millions upon millions flowing back into the coffers, into the accounts, because they've created all of these alliances for their members. It's a bad example, but it's an example, right? So Uber and Lyft need to go out there and explore these relationships so that there are benefits, discounts, rewards for drivers, keep them happy, and that these corporations then also pay back in some form of reward or commission back to Uber and Lyft so that monies flow back to them. I haven't seen any of those type of relationships built out. When I built my companies up and sold them, especially my .coms, I was always about relationships, getting on the phone, seeing, hey, how can we do a JV, a joint venture? How can we partner up? How can we become like venture partners here, right? So it's a win-win situation, always creating win-win situations. In fact, in this case, it's a win-win-win situation. Win for the drivers, win for the corporate Uber and Lyft, and win for these other companies. They haven't even started exploring that, right? Now, another thing is that in many cities, right, you will see that cars are allowed to advertise on top, right? They have these light boxes. You see it in LA, you see it in Vegas, you see it, and it's in thousands and thousands of cities worldwide where taxis especially have lighting, advertising on the top. Why doesn't Uber or Lyft start their own marketing company, right? They have the workforce, they have the drivers, and you then get the advertising display for your vehicle. You can buy it, you can lease it, whatever. And then Uber goes out and forms all these partnerships with corporates, with companies, and advertises through their drivers. So they're actually their own marketing firm. Do you know how many hundreds of millions of dollars would flow back into the coffers? I haven't seen this. What Uber and Lyft have done is they're like, oh, let other companies make money on our drivers. Let these companies find our drivers and approach them and sell them the marketing opportunity, supply the light box, supply the marketing. No, Uber and Lyft need to do this themselves. They need to own that vertical of the operation. The other vertical that they should do immediately, they know that a lot of drivers, and hands up here in the house, thumbs up, who has ever delivered, not a human, but let's say food, which is a bad example because there's obviously Uber Eats and Postmates, etc. But you've delivered a parcel or a dress or a package, and because somebody has ordered an UberX or an XL for a larger parcel and it needed to get from A to B immediately, and they didn't have the time to go to FedEx, they didn't have the time to go to UPS, and they used you. So I haven't seen Uber or Lyft implement any feature in the app that says, do you want to use this trip for cargo purposes? They could truly disrupt the cargo business, the express, the delivery business of parcels, whatever it is, right? And have a lot of money coming in, right? They don't have to deal with passengers, right? They have the existing passengers or corporations use the Uber and Lyft drivers as a means of transporting parcels, cargo, small ones, express quickly to the destination. I have not seen that there, right? That's like one of the absolute frickin' no-brainers to me, and the easiest vertical to implement in this company to bring in money, right? Dustin, yeah, I wasn't seeing that comment they made in the. I wasn't happy seeing that comment. Yeah, it's very misleading. It's very misleading. They basically, Dustin made a video on this. They basically are telling you there's worse things to come, right? So God knows how these guys make their decision, but I want to introduce a whole new way of corporate decision making to Uber and Lyft, and that is from bottom up, that the drivers will actually bring you the best results, the best ideas, the best suggestions, because whatever is happening on the top is resulting in a $1.8 billion deficit, right? Now, another one, you know this, where there are hemorrhaging costs every single year, right? And they don't seem to learn from this, or through their legal woes, right? If you know that you're having lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit on issues regarding security and safety of drivers and passengers, and you're setting yourself up for lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit, wouldn't I then have a task team on that and say, listen, you 10 guys, you're on this. Here's a $50 million budget. Get this resolved. So we free up $3 or $4 or $500 million of future lawsuits, right? Plug all the holes. Bring us the very, very best security and safety system that so no person dies, no person gets assaulted, no woman gets raped. Work on it. Here's my task force. I haven't seen that, right? But instead, they will allow lawsuit after lawsuit settlement to take place. The money that they are bleeding through their legal woes boggles me. It really does, right? So when you know you're facing all these legal attacks, work on it, right? Put a specialized team together and say, what are they hitting us on? What do we need to make better, right? They seem to, I hear this again and again and again, we spent this money on making the driver app more. They brought out this cutesy interface. The money that they spent on this shit is mind-boggling, folks, right? We need a functioning app, right? We need a functioning app that navigates us, that pays us, and does the basics, right? Don't spend hundreds upon millions of dollars on all these extra little bells and whistles. Doesn't make sense to me whatsoever, right? But and have I ever seen in the app for the driver or the passenger, hey, the company formed all of these alliances with all these other corporations, flights, there's discounts here, there's discounts at restaurants, right? Form those relationships with corporate America. Cut back on the corporate greed, right? Cut back on your salaries, right? Let's get these figures down. Let's start making money here so we all start seeing money, right? Now, let me address another one, right? I've spoken about suggestions with hubs, staff, the real estate that they're leasing, the corporate salaries that are off the charts, the call centers that need to be revamped, the increase in rates for the passengers has to take place. I have talked about suggestions of point systems, relationship building with other companies that I haven't seen, right? A big one, introduce incentives for drivers, right? Why are your biggest cost factor, Uber and Lyft, listen to me very clearly, is what you spend on recruiting a new driver, right? You're subsidizing all of this, right? Your recruiting fees are through the charts because you do not have the ability, the lack of it, right, to keep a driver and keep a driver happy, right? So how do you keep a driver happy? I learned at the age of 12 years old when I was delivering newspapers, the more newspapers I delivered, the more incentives I got, the more rewards I got. It was the biggest lesson in my life. And I've applied it all through my life, through the companies I've built and sold, through my production company, my special events company. I would always incentivize people. You bring in the sponsors and the contracts and the dollars, I will reward you for it. I'll give you an incentive, right? I don't see enough incentive for drivers, right? If you've hit 500, if you've hit 1,000, if you've hit 1,500, if you've hit 5,000, if you've hit 10,000, if you've hit 20,000 trips, incentivize the driver by upping his salary, by upping his so we don't get salaries, by upping his per mile and per minute cost, right? And that's how you keep them. Instead of like yesterday, hey, here's a little reward, IPO time, we'll pay you out a one-time fee of $100, maybe $500 if you're lucky. And if you're one of the 10 drivers around the world that's done 20,000 trips, we'll give you $10,000. They're only using the $10,000 for marketing purposes to sound like rock stars. There are very, very few people, my friends, that have done 20,000 trips, right? Incentives across the board will keep drivers happy. They will keep the drivers in the company, and you will see that your recruiting fees start going down. You don't have to constantly turn on that washing machine, that conveyor belt, and try and get more drivers in, right? You're hemorrhaging money there, right? So Dustin is driving. Don't forget to cover that other thing we talked about. Yes. So Dustin wants me to make, and I've looked at this app that he's spoke about. He's got a couple of great videos on the Gas app. I will make a video for my people about the Gas app. After listening to, and watching Dustin's video, how good this app is, right? It's totally worthy a video, and people should be signing up. So I'll stay posted. Those videos are coming. And again, I want to say thanks to Dustin last night for calling me last night. I was on my way to LAX to pick up some clients, and we had a good conversation. We had a really, really good conversation, and we covered a lot of territory, right? We spoke about some of the things right here, right? About some of the things that they could improve, about some of the things that are not working, right? Now, these are decisions that, let's say, Torsten and Dustin, as part of the driver family, make decisions, corporate decision making for them, right? Bottom up. Very, very valuable input. The 20, 30 minutes that I got to speak to that gentleman, right? Valuable. You know, talking about the vision of the company, talking about what they're doing to drivers, right? And we're coming up with solutions, man. We're coming up with alternatives, right? Two drivers, different sides of the coast. He's on the East Coast, I'm here on the West Coast. Two drivers came up with more consensus, more positive input than you're getting here, top to bottom, right? And, you know, it's tough, but sometimes people have to go, right? And sometimes I hope that some of these people that have put so much money, like SoftBank or Google, into these companies, they need to chop. They need to start chopping positions and putting, I think, better qualified people in who are not that greedy, who are not that ego orientated, that will take a lesser salary and maybe work more towards shares. These guys are double dipping. Super high salaries, super high shares. Who's getting them there? We getting them there. RC, Triple Beam Dream, Rideshare 411, Chicago Rob, Texas Rideshare Guy, Uber Girl Paula. We are discussing super good ways, my friends. Bottom, because that's what they regard us as, the bottom feeders. But in management, in corporate decision making, there is a style called bottom up. So we're introducing a whole new way to run Uber and Lyft, bottom, from the drivers up to the corporates, by giving them these suggestions, right? And here I am unloading a lot of ideas, a lot of suggestions, which I think many of them make sense. Many of these ideas that I've put forward, my friends, I've had my call centers. I've put incentives in place with staff, right? There's certain things that work. And there's certain things right now, if I look at Uber and Lyft, they're not even there. They're not even there. Some of the basics are not even there. So is it the job of these guys just to work with techie people every day, technical engineers every day, and govern them and spend money there and hemorrhage cash? Set up different divisions in your company that get things achieved, right? Set up a division that takes care of your legal issues, right? And plugs the holes so that you don't get sued for 100 and 150 million, and you settle on 400 million, and you settle on 20 million. That's how you get to this $1.8 billion loss, my friends, right? Now, the data that these guys are collecting, the data, Facebook, Google, they sell data, right, to advertisers, right? Has Uber or Lyft even started exploring what their data is worth and how they could sell that data to companies and how they could possibly integrate companies that can benefit from their data, their logistics, the transportation of people, the demographics, the cities, the whereabouts of people at certain times, the movement of people, the movement of X people, the movement of SUV people and executives. They have so much data. Are they selling it? No. Are they working with it or using it for a financial gain to empower and increase their bottom line? No. They're not working with data. They're just using their data and doing willy-nilly experiments with their data on drivers. Doesn't seem to be working, folks, right? So input, please. Input from you guys. And I would like to see far more incentives, rewards, and point programs in place for drivers, right? If I fly with a specific airline because I'm an Uber or Lyft driver, I want to see a benefit. If I go into that restaurant chain as an Uber or Lyft driver, I want to see a benefit. If I hire a car through Enterprise or Hertz for private purposes as an Uber or Lyft driver, I want to see a benefit. If I go and stay in that whole hotel chain, Marriott or whatever it's called, as an Uber or Lyft driver, I want to see an incentive. I want to see a benefit for myself, right? I want to be happy. Have they done that? Nothing. Nada. Shit. Zero. Slaps, my friend. Slaps. So Vegas, Inner Circle, 33, I like it. I'm sure they're milking the cow as much as they can now to unload their data down the road for a cheap price. Maybe, but whatever they're doing right now is not working. They've got a $1.8 billion deficit. Once again, they've actually shared that in the IPO filing, right? So Deshante Bragg's in the house. Pike, how do we vote you in? I don't even want to be voted in. I just want drivers to have a place at the decision table, because I think we would have more constructive input bottom up than top down. Doesn't seem to be working, the top down decision making process there, right? Doesn't seem to be working, right? Bleeding all this money on self-driving cars. Why don't you integrate verticals right now? Why don't you integrate verticals yesterday that make money? Cargo, little express parcels, other things, right? They know that they're in the Uber Eats program, right? Has Lyft explored a food delivery program? No. Implement it, man. Become a player, right? Open up markets, right? We're seeking alternatives. We're making suggestions, because right now the corporate decision making, which is also characterized by consensus or a lack of it. I say right now it's a lack of it. There is a lack of corporate decision making in the rideshare industry. It starts on the top with people who are assigning themselves supersonic, greedy salaries, right? It's an epidemic. It's a virus. It's a sickness in the United States, how entitled CEOs and corporates believe they are on salaries. They are way too inflated. You go around the world, to Japan, to China, to Europe, whether it's Germany, Belgium, Holland, Spain, Portugal, Italy, Sweden, Norway, wherever you are, England, and look at the corporate salaries, right? They are realistic. And I think if you have finally got that job, you should be rewarded well. But to make salaries such as 30, 40 million a year or higher, it's ridiculous. Chop them by 10, 15% right now. Let's get $300 to $400 million back into the coffers, into the company. I challenge the board members, I challenge the executives to give up 15% of your salary back into the corporation, right? So we can make other avenues more profitable, right? put that money back in so we free up $400 million that we could apply to a handful of things that I have already listed. I don't think the company has put in enough AI, artificial intelligence, into their system. Now, my ex-wife, the wonderful mother of my children, we're good friends. She is a brilliant, brilliant AI engineer, right? She's written programs for me in the past for my .coms. She's written programs for banks that integrate them with Wall Street on decision making and that, right? And just talking to her, and like, there's really no AI. There's not much AI in the rideshare business. I know that companies like Google or with your Apple, your Siri, I mean, how much AI is programmed into that when you immediately get the answers, right? A computer is giving you the answers, right? What is the score? What was the score between that and that game? The score was 1-0. The score was 34-15, right? They're not paying that robot. They programmed that robot once off, right? There is not enough AI in the rideshare business. Salaries need to be cut. Passengers would be comfortable paying 10-15% more. It's still far less than a taxi rate, and it's far superior service, 5-star service, compared to a taxi company, right? For that, they should at least pay another 15% premium. A lot of people in the house. Cool. Glad that a lot of my friends are mixing it up. I want to see more suggestions from you. I'm seeing more private little conversations going on, right? People tuned out, not tuned into the topic of, hey, we can make suggestions bottom to top, right? There's more little private little chats going on, whereas the objective of my video was problem solving. So I challenge even all the people in this room that are having these little private one-on-one Uber girl Paula with Chicago Rob, right? Having these little private conversations. Come up and show these people on top that we can actually make things happen, and we can actually inject ideas bottom to top, right? That we are relevant, right? Because what's happening on there, as I've highlighted, a lack of corporate decision making, top to bottom, is not working. So maybe we need to be at the table, right? Maybe we need to be the co-pilot of this decision making process. And again, I ask board members and executives, for the sake of the company, don't offer these insane discount vouchers. You're cheapening our brand. You're cheapening us. You're cheapening us drivers. I'm asking Lyft, don't introduce these ride passes where you're subsidizing costs. You're subsidizing costs, right? Cheapening the brand. Why are you doing all of this? You're doing all of this because you're not willing to explore other avenues, and you're not willing to give up a little. You're not willing to give up a little bit of your salary, right? Of your supersonic salary. You're not willing to increase the rates for passengers. So once again, you're making decisions, a lack of it, and issuing discount vouchers. I understand why they're doing it. They want volume. They want to show volume pre-IPO or post-IPO. I get it. I get why they're doing this, because they want those shares that they own, the shares of the investors, to be healthy. There's not a long-term plan here, right? Look at how Lyft is behaving right now. Went all the way down, right? And I think that is due to a lack of good, sound corporate decision making, right? That the reflection of the Lyft stock, and mark my words, the reflect of the Uber stock is going to go the same way, right? Because if you are showing $1.8 billion losses each year, you are not showing incentive programs to keep drivers. You are not trimming away some of your own greedy fat, right? This is going to happen every year. And you're going to end up, with a market evaluation of $100 billion, and a year, 2 years down the line, that stock might be worth $37, $40, right? And I'm not just, this is not just my personal opinion. I speak to CEOs in the car. I drive these people in the Lux categories. I drive these people, corporate people, whether it's an entertainment business, whether it's national real estate companies, people that operate in all states, make decisions from the top down in all states. Highly, highly competent people. They say if they carry on this way, they cannot be surprised that the stock is worth nothing after 1 or 2 years, right? So let's get some really good ideas going, my friends. I appreciate you being in this live feed today. Please share the video. Mario Leal says pump and dump, pump and dump, pump and dump. Right. The shares go dancing all the way to the bank. Okay, cool. I like that. I like that feedback. Roadie Rideshare Guide, Jerry says the problem is Uber and Lyft compete with each other and not the other forms of transportation. So they're consistently rushing to the bottom to get passengers. Good point. I like your point. So for that argument, right, there obviously has to be a solution, an alternative, right? The CEO's compensation is heavily incentive-based, stock options rather than salary. But that may be. So if it's incentive-based, he's making these decisions, right, based on his own outcome down the line at IPO. Okay, I may cash in another 200 million, but I can tell you that his salary is way too inflated, right? What he's going to bank out at this IPO is insane. Probably stands to make 150 to 200 million dollars, right? And that's them, just their ego taking care of themselves. They're not looking at the bigger picture. They're not looking at the grand scale of the future. The hate keeper. The professor is telling it like it is. That's me, my friend. There's no gray zone. It's like Michael Jackson said, it's black or white. Doesn't matter whether it's black or white. There's no gray zone here, right? We are not shy to dish out punches. We are not shy to speak the truth. I don't like cloudy skies, my friends. I like sunshine. I like clarity. I like blue skies, right? So if you want to move out of these clouds, they want to move out of this grayness, this funk, this drizzle, this fog, they better hope that they make some really smart decision making so we have blue skies and sunshine. That's like the way I like to approach it, right? So say it as it is. I've only come up with some ideas and suggestions, folks. They're not the beginning and end of all. They are just some good suggestions. Some of them might be not as great, right? But hopefully things change. So let's see. Let's read a couple of comments here, and then I'm out of here. What do you think about at least increasing the rates for top performing drivers? I have addressed that about 15 minutes ago, and 100% right on that one. I think it should be conducted on 2 tiers. It should be based on, let's say you have high ratings, top performance drivers should be incentivized even more. And then another incentive tier should be, hey, I've reached 500, there's an incentive. I've reached 1,000, 5,000 trips, 7,000 trips, 10,000 trips, incentive. So 2 forms of incentive plans right there. Harley's Prince, 60 cents per mile in Chicago has screwed all UberX drivers. Right. Now that is a complaint, right? That's a reaction to one of their corporate decision makings, right? That's an impulsive reaction, you writing down there, Harley, to the lack of corporate decision making. What we're saying is, yeah, how do we counter that, right? How do we counter that argument that Harley's made? So we correct it, right? And that is, I think, don't be shy on the top, right? to make the decision that there needs to be a substantial increase in the rate, maybe 3 months apart, a 10% increase and another 5% increase to the passenger's rate, right? Then you can see an adjustment that 60 cents maybe goes up to 75 cents, right? Because you've created balance again. Right now, they're just taking away on this side, on the driver's side, and it's discounts and incentives on the passenger side. It's got to be a balance. It's got to be a balance and harmony across the board, right? So, yeah, Uber called Paula, we only get 60 cents. That's why the people strike, right? That's why you have these interpersonal issues between the company, the drivers, and the corporates, right? It plays out in form of a strike. It says, enough. You are only doing for them, you're not doing for us. You're only doing for the passenger, you're not doing for the driver. You're only doing for the rider, you're not doing for the people that are bringing you the money, right? That's why people revolt. Alex Kaplan, this is the third live stream I've caught this week. Thank you for taking the time, Professor. I'll keep watching, but for now I might just find a real job, even if that is a minimum wage job. And absolutely, I 100% support that decision. If it's not working for you, if you are too upset about this and it's not bringing in the money, walk, right? Or make a change. Maybe say, okay, I have an X vehicle. I could lease or rent out that X vehicle through Turo, through hire car, through fare, whatever it is, make a profit on that car, right? Use that money and get myself an XL or another car and start making money, right? Because whatever's working, whatever Alex is doing right now in that category is not making him happy. It's not making him money. And he says he's now going to go and find a real job. And we support him on that journey because you've made up your mind and you're basing that on numbers, right? You got to wake up in the morning and you got to be happy throughout the day, right? Funny, I have some people across the road looking into my studio here, and they're like, well, what is he doing? Why are all these lights on? That's funny. So they're like standing there staring. Hello. Yeah, I have nice big bright windows, converted a big garage, and I converted half of the garage into like a little work studio, like a film studio, right? So when I leave the front open and the windows open, sometimes people on the street will walk by and they see all these lights, like, what the hell's going on there? Sherry says, Lyft will give rides based only on drivers' earnings, meaning if I just started working and you've made 100 and we're in the same area, I will get the call, spreading earnings evenly. Okay. Rick Reviews, I'm not. I'm a regular guy, my friend. I'm a dad. I'm a father. And I drive those characters. In fact, I drove the Foo Fighters, the drummer Taylor Hawkins, the other day, and I said, and I'm good friends with him. I go partying and have a drink or go out to dinner with him once in a while. Here in Hidden Hills, drive his family, his wife to events, etc. And I said to him, hey, would it be too much to ask you if you could do like a little video? Because he's funny, man. The guy is funny on video. I mean, he's funny in real life with all his fans. The people come up to him. He never turns someone down. He's the nicest guy. He takes selfies with them. He jokes with them. He's so approachable, right? Where I walk around with him sometimes, right? And this long guy with blonde hair, looks like a surfer. Super coolest guy, right? The best, they say the best drummer in the world, next to Travis Barker from Blink. And he said, sure, man, I'll make a testimonial for you. So next time I'm going to see him, I'm taking my computer down and we'll shoot a quick little video. I doubt he'll go live with me. Just doesn't have the time for that. But I hope to just get like a little 30-second feedback because he's funny. Now, whatever he says, I know is going to be funny. Edgar Sandoval, we should have a dinner one of these days. I'm there, buddy. You choose and book the location. I'll come down. Randall Hall, which class at Rideshare Driving School teaches about starting a fleet? Good question. I'm not going to promote Rideshare Driving School in this video, but the bundled course goes into a ton of detail on how you buy the cars, what you need to do when you have the cars, when you've made that investment and actually saved on purchasing the cars, and then how to form the TCP, go out and get the TCP. I explain that, how to manage the drivers to get the most out of it, what to do, what not to do. And then also the main point is how to build clients, private clients. After the course, when you've completed, I can see how many steps you've completed. When you've completed the course, I then get on the phone with you and we do a recap. And that is if you want to start a fleet like I did several years ago, right? And built it out, right? It's a formula. I have a recruiting formula of drivers, right? 500 trip minimum, 4.9 rating minimum. Rule number one, right? If I'm recruiting a driver, I will interview them and I'll have 2 other people interview them, but they have to come in with requirements. 500 trips, 4.9 rating. I will not take someone fresh off the street who has no clue about private clients, right? And their 4.9 rating tells me they're able, after 500 trips, to keep that type of rating. So they've got to be good. So these are the type of things you'll find in that course. These are the type of things we discuss on the phone if you want to start a fleet. But the real money maker is how you buy the cars, right? The drivers are always there. They're lined up, right? There will never be a lack of drivers. It's choosing good drivers and buying at the right price. And most important of all, what marketing strategies are you using to recruit private drivers, right? So that you get emails, text messages, or calls like I get every day. Tomorrow, I have 4 private trips, right? One of them goes to Anaheim. It's a long one for a very, very wealthy individual. And then in between, if I can fit in my Uber or try and get a trip back with destination filters or whatever it is, or drop in at the airport, pick up a client there, I'll do it, right? So I'll try and fill downtime with Uber and Lyft trips, right? But not to go too much off track. Process of corporate decision making. What is it all about, folks? Corporate decision making happens at various levels in organization and can be top down or bottom up. Top down or bottom up. Whatever they're doing top down is not working. So I have come up with a proposal that we introduce a bottom up approach and have a panel of drivers at the table that share their input, their ideas, right? This $1.8 billion deficit does not have to be $1.8 billion, right? And I myself, I've identified the lack of decision making of many of these corporates. And I tell you what, when I get that confirmed from my passengers who are CEOs who run big national companies and they share their input, I say to myself, I'm not too far off with my ideas or my thinking, right? They will say right away, like last night, I pick up the gentleman at 11 o'clock at night, right? A CEO. I drive him all the way back to Westlake. He is the CEO of a national company, and he is a big, big investor. He bought Uber and Lyft shares at the early stage. He bought Lyft shares when he could get them at $22, right? So right now he's up, right? Right now he's up, and he's going to offload them in 6 months' time, a lot of shares, right? He owns a lot of Uber shares. But he goes like, I ask him a question, and I say, name. The name's Daniel, by the way. Daniel, am I far off in my thinking if I believe that Uber and Lyft are making some really, really poor corporate decision making on top? And then I explain to him why. And then we get into a 1-hour conversation, right? Where he's just like, bam, 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 because he is a CEO. And this guy on the phone, on the computer, the way he manages people, the way he speaks to people, That's what I want to learn. I want to learn from people like that, right? I admire people. I look up and respect people like that, the way they treat and handle their staff. And that's not a once-off conversation. I get to see his mannerisms. I get to see his management style. I get to see his conversational style every time I drive him. And I have nothing but respect and admiration for that individual, versus looking at the lack of, right, communication, the lack of interpersonal relationships with drivers from these guys. They just think that they're on another planet and they can do whatever they want, right? So to me, it's a slap in the face. Only love in this chat. That's right, Deanna. Only love and suggestions. Only love and suggestions. Try Juno or Via. Juno's done. Juno's fried. I'll tell you right now, they're done. They're trying to sell the last bit of what they have. The company that owns them, Jet, is bleeding money. One of the biggest investors bailed out. Volkswagen, I think it was. They bailed out. I can tell you right now, Juno and Jet are done. Albert Person, Chicago Rob. He's obviously addressing Chicago Rob. I would have well over 20,000 trips, but Uber has taken me offline on several occasions for weeks at a time for things that were not my fault. They've taken you offline for weeks at a time. Elaborate on that. I would have 20,000 trips. And as the excuse, you're saying they took you offline for several weeks. Elaborate on that one. I think that's pushing the blame too much on them, right? You shouldn't be offline for several weeks. You go in, you go into the hub, you mix it up, you shout around, you demand managers, you get on the phone, you send letters to headquarters, and if nothing happens in 72 hours, you file the small claims and you get reinstated. You should never, ever, Albert, be offline for several weeks. Not buying it. Jerry Hoffman's off to Coachella. Yes, I'm heading out there tomorrow night, driving a group up. I'll be there on Sunday and I'll be there next Sunday, so hit me up. Tommy, I appreciate you saying that. Listen, this is just looking out for the driver, involving us more, Tommy, right? I think we should be at the table, and it's a lot of good input by drivers. And yeah, I mean, I have a business degree. I'm not going to deny that. I have my master's in business, and I also have a master's in spiritual psychology, right? In psychology. It's a division of psychology. It's a special program created here in the US, and it's amazing, right? It just, for people who are interested in that, looking in that, just Google USM, University of Santa Monica. They have a master's in psychology degree. Read up about that. It's interesting. It's really interesting, right? The tool set that many should have when dealing with other individuals, when dealing with loved ones, when dealing with family, when dealing with friends, when dealing in corporations. It's a tool set that you can implement that works, right? And it's number one, it's based on you don't judge anyone. I will never judge any one of these individuals, right? Look, if someone like yesterday constantly spews out hatred and spews out that gay people are, should be whatever, that guy has an issue somewhere in his past, right? And we're going a little bit off track here, and has this hatred, this homophobia, right? Doesn't belong in here. So I like this little button. It's called a time out button. It's on the far right, right? It's not that I'm judging him, because I don't know what has what went on in his teenage years or as a kid or why he became like that. I'm not judging him. It's not part of the topic, and the hatred will not be supported in this room. So for anyone who jumps in here, trolling, negative, pessimism, attacking other people based on their color, religion, whatever, you're out, right? I'll use my friend's reference, the Smakovich. That's his brand. Dustin, I'm giving him a shout out again. I'm like, they're out of the room. They're out of the live room. That's it. Because the people that we have in here, they keep it real. They keep it positive. They respect each other. And they have great input. Deanna from Chicago, sometimes the hub reps will penalize drivers and drivers have to take other measures. When you get ill treatment or you feel like you have someone across the desk from you, a hub staff, who says, excuse me, bring me the manager. Why? Unfortunately, you and I are not moving forward. We're not getting this resolved. So we'll have to move this on and escalate this to a manager, right? You're at table 4, right? Your name, I can't give you my name. Okay, that's fine. I'll just take, I have the name on the phone here, by the way, because it said move up to desk 7 or desk 4. There's your name. Here's the time. Do you want to help me, or do I need to go to the HQ, the corporate, and file a complaint with them that I wasn't able to speak to a manager about my issue? At that point, you see a manager. You have a whole new person. It's a whole new discussion, right? The challenge is sometimes moving past that ego of that hub member, right? Who's just stonewalling you, who's just fighting back, right? Now, you might be irate, and the one thing you don't want to start doing is name calling, right? You have no effing idea. You have no clue what I'm. Don't get into that space with them. Just say, hey, listen, I'm talking to you calm, cool, collectively. Obviously, we're not getting past this problem point, past this hurdle. I'd like to see a manager. If they then stonewall you, I've just given you the solution right there and then what you can do to put in place to get to the manager. Because now you're bypassing their manager and saying, I will send the screenshot, the name of the date of the experience I had here to corporate. And at that point, that person thinks, oh my God, my job might be in jeopardy. I need to get this guy a manager, right? And when you're with a manager, you either get the thing resolved or you start from scratch again, stonewalling, right? And, then you have to work the phone lines, then you have to write the letters, but you can't walk away or give up on a matter where you know you're in the right, where you have been wronged, right? Where a 100% false accusation has been put upon you. You've got to stand up for yourself. And I've just answered your question, Deanna, how you get it resolved at the hub, how you could work the Uber helpline to get to a manager there. And if you fail on both levels, you got to address registered post to the legal department, in San Francisco. That's the only way. And then you just have to wait a little bit because you don't get a call or an email right away. RC later, folks, got a client pickup 4 p.m. Go and do that. I am going to head out as well. Rad Suchi, hi, what should I do when I get kicked out from a Subway restaurant here in Ottawa because I'm a Muslim? Now, they should never kick you out. The fact that you're a Muslim is not the reason to kick you out. That is some manager who has an issue with Muslims, right? So you take a photo, right, of the location, try and get the person's name. You report him for racial profiling, and you go online and you write the reviews on Google Reviews, on the complaint websites that they discriminated against you, and you also write to corporate, to Subway corporate. On this date, at this location, I was discriminated, right? And then wait. I will guarantee you, Rod, you can go back to that subway, right? That's wrong. And it's not like we're trying to always pull the racial card, right? But if we feel like we've been wrong done because of our background, because of our religious beliefs, because of the way they judge our color, whatever, got to stand up for yourself, folks. Right? There's a lot you can do, especially if these problem people that are judging you and putting the stamp on you work for a corporation. Oh my God, do you have a lot of tools in your power to take action, right? You could walk into the subway live Facebook and say, hey, guys, I'm live on Facebook. Why did this person discriminate me? Right? They will frickin' rally. They're like, hey, you can't shoot live here. I can be on my phone and speak to whomever I want. I'm just asking you, why are you discriminating against me? Right? So that BS needs to stop worldwide. No one is more superior than the other, right? Humans are equal. The king is not more special than the janitor. Is not, right? Everyone has legal rights, and one man, one vote. The vote of the king, the vote of the janitor, it's both one vote, right? And both have the right freedom of speech. Both can say what they want as long as they don't harm or hurt someone. Vegas Inner Circle, right on. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate you. Peter Müller, will you buy Uber shares? Yes, but later. I am not going to I made a mistake. I made a mistake by immediately buying Lyft shares, right? I'm a person that'll keep shares for a long, long time because I'd like to see that. I'd like to see that and then try and sell here, right? I did it with some Amazon stock, with some Microsoft stock, made some good money. The mistake that I made with Lyft is that I thought they would start here and just go up and up and up. They did rally to 81 and then they just came down. Now, a lot of people, a lot of people that do trading, when they look at patterns and see it dropping because people are selling, at that point, maybe I should have bailed out. I think it was day 2. Maybe I should have. But my thinking was long term. But now that I've seen how the Lyft stock has behaved, right, I do realize I maybe should have bought the Lyft stock later. There's no should have, would have, could have. It is what it is, right? Right now I'm at a loss. But what I'm going to learn from that is if I do buy the Uber shares and I see that same rally take place, the moment they dip, I'm either going to sell or I'm going to wait for them to really plummet, which I'll think they will, and then buy in here. But to answer your question, Peter, am I going to buy from the get-go? No. I learned my lesson with Lyft. Sometimes you have to learn your lesson. I did. I can honestly say that the decision and the choice that I made right there and to jump in all gung-ho with Lyft from the beginning was wrong. There you have it. I was in a profit, yes. At one stage, I was definitely in a profit, right? It started at, correct me if I'm wrong, somewhere, I want to say, was it in the high 60s or low 70s, and it went up to 81. So at one stage, it was really in the profit. And I think a lot of people that invested it thought, okay, very much doubt it's going to go higher than 81. It's already coming down, offload, done, right? A lot of short sales. But a lot of people are jumping in right now, right? Because I think it's like almost, correct me if I'm wrong, 18% below the starting line. It's down. So a lot of smart buyers also buy right in the low and they wait for it to bounce back and go back up again. But long story short, The moment Uber starts trading the shares, no, I'm not jumping in right from the beginning. This time around, I'm going to do some watching first. How does the stock behave before I make a decision? Lava Primitive, I love the name. Need to start your own rideshare platform where you have locus of control. I would be interested in working alongside a professional with skills equal to my own. That's cool. I like that. Start it. Yes, Texas rideshare guy, you're right. It was at 72. Correct. It's in the 60s now somewhere, right? Lava Primitive, that's an interesting statement. You could email or text me. I'd like to hear a little bit more about that. It sounds interesting. Yeah, wow, Lyft stock, 59.90. So I guess a lot of people are going to jump in right now. Maybe they're going to wait for it to go even further down. Not so good for Uber. By the way, they were shooting for an evaluation of 120 billion. And when they saw how the Lyft stock behaved, they readjusted things and said, we're going to start off with an evaluation of 100 billion. $20 billion less. That's a lot of money. A lot of money. So Rod Sochi, to follow up, to be honest, I got kicked out because I asked, please don't put ham in my sandwich. And he told me, sir, since you are a Muslim, I cannot serve you. That's disgusting. That's absolutely disgusting. Rod, give me the location of that subway. That's disgusting. Right. Let me just take a screenshot there. That's it. That's what you state. Hope you're right. Got to come from a level of truth. If that's exactly what they said, I got to believe you face value. So send me the location. I believe you said it was Ottawa, and which branch it was, and try and find out, go back there and ask for the manager. Ask for the manager's name, right? Just go in there, tell a regular staff member, hey, you want to file a complaint against management here? What is the manager's name? You should not receive that treatment, right? Because many religions, as you know it, right? Part of the culture is they cannot eat certain things, right? For example, pork. And you got to respect that. It's part of the culture, part of the religion. So for him to impose his culture on you and say, you're wrong, can't do that. I can't serve you because you are wrong. Doesn't work that way in life. Client is king, has a request, please do not put ham on my sandwich. That's it, right? It's just like me, as a vegetarian, I can go in and say, hey, I don't want beef in my footlong, right? I want a veggie patty. And tell me, what is your veggie patty made up of? Sorry, I don't serve vegetarians. I'm a meat eater. It's not an excuse. Chicago Rob, we also have never had a stock of this sort. So true, which made it hard to judge on buying immediately or waiting. Smarter statement. So true. We've never had a stock of this type of nature, so we did not know how it would behave, right? So should we jump? Should we wait? Exactly. 100% correct statement. Now that I'm watching the nature of the beast play out, I'm like, rather wait. And I think a lot of people will think that way as well. A lot of the public that were thinking, oh, Uber, great opportunity. Hang on, wait a second. I just saw this happening with Lyft, so let me wait. So his statement is so spot on. Well said. Rod Sochi, Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. Well, you email me. I will make a phone call on your behalf, my friend. Email me. Email me the details. Get me as much info as possible. Manager's name, location, address, blah, blah, blah. Right? That's one complaint to I have your screenshot, so I'm going by the statement you made. You got to stand by it, right? This is what you asked for. This is how they treated you. And I'm going to make a decision right now for myself that was wrong. I don't know if the other people agree in this room. We went a little bit off in a different direction, but we actually are standing up for one of our rideshare brothers, because it doesn't matter where you come from. It doesn't matter what your background is. I'm not interested what your background is. I'm interested is that as a driver, you get treated fairly and equally, right? That's it. Branding, my friends. Albert Pearson, I love what you do, but what are you talking about ham sandwiches? No, I was, Albert, at my discretion, I'm tuning in to conversations going on here, and I listened to the upset of a particular driver. He explained a scenario, and I got involved in that, and I'll take it further. We don't have to spend 2-3 minutes on it, but it had to do about ham in a sandwich and specific rights. That's it. Case done. We moved on. Let's see. It's nice of you to say that, Texas rideshare guy. Nice. He cares for his fellow man. I do. I'll always stand up for people, especially when I notice that people or kids are bullying other people. I'm like, dude, why are you doing this to this kid, right? What makes you more special? Put kid in the place, right? Especially if he's trying to play the little macho man in front of a couple of the guys and he's bullying like the little nerd. I've seen it happen. I've seen it happen. I've seen it happen at schools. I've seen it happen in sports. I'm like, why are you so special, my friend? Why do you think you have to bully that little kid around? And then shine the torch or put the mirror on them. We're going off on a tangent here, but Arkadia Losifov, cool name. Where are you from? What do you think about Uber paying rewards out? Look, how they pay it out, whether they pay it out through this IPO in form of shares, they are trying to do some damage. To me, it says it's going back to this corporate decision making. It's damage control. There's a lot of unhappiness in that. Okay, let's throw them a bone. They should have implemented incentives from day one, right? They shouldn't wait for all this unhappiness to occur and then at some point, many, many years down the line, say, hey, we'll give you this appreciation reward, right? I think that should have come way earlier in steps in form of incentives. So that's, what do I think about it? I think it's a desperate attempt to do some damage control. That's my opinion. And he has 11,926. I hope they pay you well. You deserve. Azerbaijan, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful country. I have a couple of friends in LA who are from Azerbaijan, and I also enjoy their food. So thank you for sharing, my friend. He received $1,000. Again, I'm going to give you a shout out. I'm very happy for you. You deserved 1,000 and more, right? Peter Muller, they got 10 billion more with the IPO. True. You're welcome. Arkady, I hope I'm saying it correctly. You're welcome. I want to leave you on this note, my friends. Again, anyone watching the video, post the live show, we're trying to use a bottom-up approach here because I made a bold statement that there's a lack of corporate decision making top to bottom. So we're coming in with a lot of good ideas. I started my video out putting 10, 11, 12 ideas down, and then we went into more private conversations. If you're jumping in at this point, please share with us. Please share with corporate Uber, with corporate Lyft, what you think could be done in order to turn this $1.8 billion deficit around. Come up with alternatives, come up with bridges, come up with solutions, right? No matter how low risk or high risk they are, how complex they are, just come up with some good decision-making suggestion, folks. So JD, I like your hat. I like you being part of my room. I need some thumbs up before I leave the house. I have a rule. I want to count at least 30 thumbs ups before I exit and can go and pick up my kids. Thumbs up to all of you. Dustin, that's right. Tell them. Exactly. Just like Dustin's not shy to tell them. You see, that's what I respect most. People who have an opinion and are not shy to express their opinion, that don't live in the wishy-washy gray land, right? That are not like in a smoke cloud, but they stand up and say, hey, this is the way it is, right? Peter Miller, have a good one. I need thumbs up. Dustin, thanks for the conversation last night. I will get that video to you. I owe you a video on that gas app, my friend. I'm excited to see him down in Cali in the near future. I got 2 from Robert Anderson. I'm 28 thumbs up short. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm on 8 now. Ooh, I got a lot from Tommy. I'm almost at the 30 line. We're nearly there, buddy. We're nearly there. I need a couple more, and I'm out of here, and I'm going to pick up my 11-year-old. Spring break. Party time. Off-roading. Sand dunes. Polaris. Razor. Fun times. That's what I love doing. Get on the bikes, get on the quads, get on the racing cars. Love, love, love. There we go. Tommy's given me a lot of thumbs up. I need some other, I need to go out here, my friend, knowing that it's all good energy. Driving Phoenix. Appreciate you, my friend. Appreciate you guys. Have an amazing, amazing weekend. If you're in Coachella, I will see you there. If you're not at Coachella, work hard in LA or Orange County. Watch it live from your phone. T-Mobile and YouTube are doing live feeds from Coachella. If you want to go up and make money, hit Coachella this weekend. It's going to be hot. It's going to be windy. And make a lot of those blue $100 notes, my friends. And love and peace to all of you. Have an amazing, successful family weekend with friends, with family. Just enjoy. Have a good time. Love you back.